up, guys? This is episode 40 of the Master of One podcast, and I am officially back from Europe. I didn't even know what happened. Got very close to not happening, but we did make it back. Um, Before I get into all the details and whatever for this episode, I want to thank all the donors: my brother, Philip Aaron, Jalen Linear, Chris Donaraj, Greg Adamson, Bob Peatman, Chris Chambers, Pearl Chen, Prashant Podaturi, Ritesh and Rupa Vargasi, Beloved Bodian, Sandeep Shom, Jason Benjamin, Vivek Singh Hania and their family, Chit Patel, Daniel Mingle and his father, Mother Reddy, and of course the famous and infamous James Altucher. So it's good to be back. Definitely a lot of things to talk about, a lot of different things that have happened. But first and foremost, I would like to thank the jet lag bonus gods for gracing me with the ability to wake up at 8 a.m. every day. So for the people who don't know, when you go to Europe, especially where I was, the Balkans, you are essentially 6 hours to 7 hours ahead. So when you get back to America, I just can't go to bed after 12 p.m. It's the most insane thing, and in my prior days, I would make fun of people who went to bed before 12, because I would always stay up till 3, 4, whatever. Nowadays, I've been going, I guess today is the curse is broken. It's 11:59. I will not be going to bed in the next 30 seconds. So, the curse is broken, but the real good thing is I've been waking up at 8 a.m., 7 a.m., 6 a.m., 5 a.m. every day this past week. And this is like my dream. I was like, if I could wake up early, I can conquer the world. And I haven't conquered the world yet, but I have been waking up early, no problem whatsoever. So anyone who wants to wake up early, who's like, I always stay up late and I want to learn how to wake up early, just go to Europe for about a month and a half and come back, and you'll be waking up early, no problem. So that was really great. So let me get into each country, kind of what happened. I'll talk about the chess too, of course. But Serbia I thought was one of the most underrated countries of all of them. One thing I have to say is the girls in Serbia were beautiful, and it's not just like very attractive. It's like they dressed super well, like super sophisticated. Like if you're trying to learn about fashion, if you're trying to up your fashion game, especially if you're a girl, you should go to Serbia. Now the guys were all like very serious and hardened men, is what it looked like. But the girls I thought dressed super well, and everyone was super nice. The food was, I would say, I'm gonna say the cheapest. I had a steak for about $10, and the steak was delicious. Came with mashed potatoes and all this kind of stuff. But when we get to Greece, you're gonna see that there is one exception to the rule. There is always an exception to a rule. So each country is known for a certain thing, and that is what they specialize in. That is what they're known for, and that is what's gonna be the cheapest. So Serbia was really, really good with meat. Like if you wanted to get meat, like a steak, chicken, beef, pork, whatever, like Serbia is what you're looking for. And I traveled with a friend of mine who is vegan the whole month and a half, and all I can say is I don't understand how people do that to themselves. Like, how can you choose to be vegan? Seems like more of a punishment than a way of life, you know? And here's one thing. Like, there's not eating meat. There's being vegetarian, but you can't eat cheese. You can't have eggs. You can't have, I don't know, yogurt. And it even gets worse. Like, you have all these like side yogurts, side eggs, side cheese. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to attack anyone's beliefs, because this is one thing I will say with vegans. They hold this stuff really close to their chest, really close to their heart. It's really it's how they identify themselves. So I don't want to attack it or anything, but it's just like you don't have to. Like I would argue I like animals as much, if not more, than vegans. Like my friend had a dog. I would have died for that dog if it came down to it. And that is pretty much as much love, I would say, a vegan has for an animal as a human has for an animal. That being said, I'm still eating meat, you know? So, well, Serbia was great. The tournament Tournament was good, except I lost the first round, and I lost another key round. Okay, actually, Serbia was it was kind of a heartbreak to start everything. So actually, let me talk about the context before I went to Europe. I played 3 tournaments in America before I went to Europe. I played Castle Grand Prix, where I think I got like 3rd place, so tied for 3rd place or something. Honestly, Castle was horrendous. Like I flagged a drawn game. I flagged a drawn game that was a winning game that I decided to make it a losing game. It was a very unfortunate turn of events in that game for me, not for my opponent, of course. But and then even last round I was getting the the shit kicked out of me, to say it bluntly, and I found a way to make it complicated and win against a strong player, Reese Thompson. Not something I'm proud of in the fact that I was getting demolished, but I ended up getting some money, like $200-300. Then I played World Open. World Open started horrendously. I lost the first game to an 1800, and then I grinded and climbed my way back. And basically, it came down to the last game. I was 5.5 out of 9 after playing a couple of very nice games, and I lost to a grandmaster named Bilal Balakni, or however you want, Balakini. Very strong grandmaster, really cool guy. And this, I would say, set the tone for a lot of tournaments, because I started seeing a recurring dream, if you would say, a recurring nightmare, someone would say, of how chess tournaments would go. But before the nightmare continued, I had a glimmer of hope. I played the Charlotte Super Swiss, and I did phenomenal. 5.5 out of 8 going to the last round. 5 out of 7, and I played against Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, and actually had a winning position. At the end, it should have been a draw. It was a draw. It ended up being a draw. But in the midst of him pushing so hard for a win, I actually had a chance to really get +4 and get I'm not going to say a guaranteed win position, but a very nice position to have against 2600. And if I'd won this game, then I'd either need a draw or win the last round to clinch my first GM norm. But unfortunately, I lost this game, and then after this, I got my heart broken in an end game. And this is the formula. And I will go through it tournament by tournament, and then I will sum it up at the end. So Serbia, I lost the first round against the player Dante Buiks, or Boykes. I think he's from Macedonia. He's from a very small country, international master. I played a QGD. Worst part is I got a good position, and then this random pawn push out of nowhere had me on the back foot. And the problem is, after I was on the back foot, I had 0 chance. There's nothing I could do, so I lost the first game. I lose the first game, and I win the next 4 games, and I'm 4 to 5. Now I play an Indian Grandmaster, Pranav something, and basically he puts a lot of pressure the whole game. I'm nervous, I'm holding, and it gets down to basically 2 moves. 1 move wins, 1 move loses. And I chose the move that lost in a king upon endgame. And part of it was I didn't have much time. This is, I think, something that young players or strong players do very well. They put a very good time pressure on you. Actually, Bilal does this super well too. And then after that, I bounced back once again. So this is something that you'll see in tournaments, especially when you're playing a lot or when you're playing fresh. In the beginning, it's easy to hold, to survive, to have the tenacity to never give up, to fight. But you'll see, like, by tournament, especially if you're not doing super well, it kind of wears on you. And I think this happens to a lot of people, at least in Georgia, who play week after week after week after week. If you're kind of, like, depressed, if you're kind of, I'm not saying about life and stuff, but if you're just approaching the game, which is like, here we go again, or like, oh man, I hope I don't lose. Like, it's a very bad mindset to have going into important games. And fortunately or luckily, or because it was early on and I was very, I would say high on being in Europe, just the fact that I'm in Europe, I'm playing tournaments, like I had this fire in me not to give up. So you'll see there wasn't a huge drop off maybe till the last round of the last tournament. But I can definitely see with certain people that when they're playing every week again and again and again, and the mentality shifts into how am I going to win, into how am I going to survive, that's when you're seeing like just unfortunate events happening. So Serbia, I lose to the GM. I bounce back as I always do, and then I play this Asian kid, this little Asian kid, and I'm pressing the whole game. I have an outside pass pawn, and then he finds, or I don't know, and once again I'm up on the clock. I have the dream. I have everything I wanted, and then and he finds a way to defend, and I make an inaccuracy, and now I have two choices. I can either just take the forced draw. He's about 2100. He hasn't lost to this point, 5 out of 7 or something. He's been doing really well. So I can take the draw, or I can try to go for this miracle win. This miracle win where there's a lot of chances I lose, and the miracle win turns into a miracle table position. And it gets to the point where it's knight in 4 versus knight in 3, but I have a bad 3 and he has a good 4. And I just get absolutely my soul stolen in this endgame. And I guess something that I should add to this is like early on in the tournament, and especially the first tournament in Europe, I'm posting a lot on Instagram about what's going on, how the games are going. I'm like, oh, I stole the soul from this guy. I should have lost this, but I won this. And you'll see this a lot, I think, in amateur fighters versus like real professional fighters. Like professional fighters fight, like they'll post, if they post at all, after the result is done, after it's all taken care of. Amateur fighters or low level fighters or fighters who are too excited are posting all the time. After a loss, they're trying to find their phone so they can post. And I posted a lot, and I was 4 out of 5, lost to GM, and I was doing well. So there's a lot to post about. And I think I remember I posted twice, like I stole the soul of these chess players. And then, ironically, it's what happened to me. This kid stole my soul. And that was when I learned the lesson. You don't post, you don't brag, you don't do anything. You stay humble, you stay objective, and you say what it is, if you're going to say it. I think the best thing to do is just post after the tournament, or for example, make a podcast or YouTube video recapping the tournament. But during the tournament, don't be very engaged. Like, don't do all this stuff. Like, it's going to detract from the final result that you're aiming for. So I get my soul stolen from this kid. Then I play the next game, and I mean honestly, like mentally, I'm like shook at this point. Like I played this girl from Uzbekistan, and like she doesn't play E4, or at least the last couple of games in the database, she didn't play E4. And if she played E4, she would play like Scotch Gambit or something else. And then I play against her, and she plays Roy Lopez. And at this point, with Charlotte, with earlier in the tournament, I've had so many games in this Roy Lopez, the snake variation, that I'm spooked and I play a sideline, or it's a line that I used to play when I was a kid. But I have never lifted this line in a million years. And I get an absolute terrible position, like one of the worst positions I've ever had. Like, this is one of those things that I'm going to say again and again in Europe. You get these positions and all you can say is, here we go again. Here we go again. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm just stuck here. And early on, it's not that bad because there's still hope. There's more tournaments. But you'll see towards the end, there's a level of frustration that sets in when you get this here you go again position. And you're just like, I mean, like, is this what I'm trying to do? Is this what I sacrificed all this money, this time for? To get these terrible positions where I have to just suffer and struggle? And by a miracle, I draw this game. Like, I mean, she's winning, everything's winning, she has a million wins, and I guess you just coast, and I find some miracle way to, it's like, I'm down a rook. I mean, it's rook versus pawn. I sack my rook, and unfortunately this pawn can take me all the way to a draw. So that was nice. And then this is when I started having this awakening moment. After this game, I think it was 4.5 out of 8, and I was like, all right, I'm going to play the last round, and I'm going to play like a man. So I played E4. I played a beautiful game. 3 pawn sacrifices. Checkmated this guy, open board. Like, that's exactly what you asked for. So that was Serbia. Food was good. Girls were good. Hotel was good. And here's another thing with hotels in Europe. The hotels are a bite size of what you're used to. If you have stayed in a hotel in America, let's even say a shitty hotel, like 1 star, 2 star, that is better than every 5-star. Okay, I'm going to say 5-star, because I'm sure 5-star hotels in any country are very nice. But 3-star hotels in Europe are worse than 1-star hotels in America. I can say that with pretty good confidence, at least space-wise. Like, the rooms are very small, the beds are very small, the Wi-Fi is very suspect, and there's no gyms. Now, overall, I would say Serbia was amazing. I liked it a lot. I would play there again, and I think my friend corroborates this idea and agree that Serbia is one of those tournaments you would play again. Another cool thing was I saw some really strong GMs. Ronik Sedwani. You've seen him on chess.com. You've seen him playing here and there. He actually ended up winning the tournament. And this is some kind of like unwritten rule. Like once you're winning, once you're really cruising, like it's almost like draws are just expected. Like this is what I saw with a lot of grandmasters at the top level. After round 4 or 5, if you're 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5, or of course 5 out of 5, like you can just take draws and cruise. And it's a very nice luxury to have. 1 round a day, especially you're white, you want to take the day off and chill. You're leading the tournament, perfect. I think that's the dream. Okay, so the next tournament after this was not Serbia again. Greece. So we went to Kavala. Greece was beautiful, I will say for sure. Greece was one of the coolest countries ever. We stopped in Sofia, Bulgaria along the way. Bulgaria was not beautiful. Bulgaria was very mid. Maybe it was the part that we were in, but it seemed like a Legend of Zelda small town, I would say. Whereas Serbia was like a big city. Greece seemed like more of a small town that you kind of walk. Not Greece. Bulgaria seemed like a small town that you walk by to get to the big city. So, okay, we stayed in Greece, Kavala. Greece was honestly very beautiful. We stayed right next to the ocean. It's like a 2-minute walk, maybe. One thing that we did a lot was we went on this pier and we kind of just sat there and chilled. This is when I would say my first real experience with the ocean was there. I mean, I've seen the ocean before, of course. I was in Italy the year before, but this is a nice way to chill by the ocean, I will say. In Greece, I mean, I keep breaking it down. Girls in Greece are beautiful, not as fashion sensed as Serbia, I will say. But what made Greece amazing was we all know Mediterranean food, and we all know about the term euros, not the money, like a GYRO, a euro. Euros in Greece are dirt cheap, $1.50 to $3 for a good meal. And something cool about the euros in Greece is, or the gyros, so some people know what I'm talking about, is they wouldn't put fries on the side, they would put fries in the middle. They would put fries in the wrap, and the wraps would be super cheap. You could farm the wraps pretty much. They were delicious, amazing. So Greece, I thought was very nice. Tournament-wise, I would say I played some of the worst chess in the first half, and some of the best chess in the second half, and then some of the worst chess in the last third. Okay? So first game was very mid. Just playing down, I just played very mid. So I would say something I need to very improve on is the first couple rounds you play like a man. You don't play your d4, c4, chill stuff. You play e4 and you try to knock out your opponents. And I will say against lower rated opposition or competition, you should be pressing the issue. Unless this player is a certain type where he's going to push the issue too much and lose. Unless they have known pitfalls where it's like, okay, if I just do this and follow this path, I'm good. If that's not the case, I think you need to take it to your opponents early on. You need to set the... They always say the first 2 rounds set the tone for the tournament, and I 100% agree with that. Serbia, I had come off a rough start. So Greece, I was really pushing to get a better start. And I went for e4, didn't get anything, ended up winning the first game. Then second game, I lose to an 1800. And this is very reminiscent of World Open, where it's like, okay, I play this 1800. I honestly get a dream position on the opening, and then I kind of lose my way a bit, and he basically offers a draw. Like basically, I can just trade off the pieces, and it's impossible to win. And this was a big problem that I saw throughout the chess tournaments that I played. It was at some point, I didn't want to draw, especially if I'm playing down. It was like I came all the way out here, I paid all this money, I'm spending all this time, I'm not going to draw lower rated players, and that actually hurt me more than it helped me, which I think is a very good learning tool for people listening to this and for me. And for sure, I could have taken a draw, and actually there was a point in the game where I could have kept. So it was queen and 2 rooks versus queen and 2 rooks. I could have kept a knight on the board, and I think this would have made a huge difference, and would have helped my initiative a lot, and would have given me good chances to win. But I was like, okay, I can do anything. I'm playing down. Like let me just do whatever. And I think this is a very, once again, when you're playing down, when you're not in your funk, it's a very bad mentality to have. Like, eventually I'm going to win. Eventually something's going to happen. Like, I'll be fine. You know? We all have this when we play against good people, or not even good people, up against worse competition, and we lose, and we're like, what do we do wrong? And to give some credit to the kid, like, he played really well after he was worse, and then he pushed his A pawn, got a good endgame. He actually sacrificed his queen for a rook, traded down into a better endgame for him, and then just played it perfectly. And I was just like, what 1800 is doing this to me? They're sacrificing their queen. They're grinding me in a worse endgame or a better endgame. Like, this is insane. And this is a very good, I think, learning lesson. And once again, I had to take it along again. But these are good lessons, and as long as you inherit them, understand them, and don't let it happen again in future tournaments, it is good long term. And this is something that's very hard when you're doing all this, when you're playing all these tournaments, when you're playing all these games, when you're playing tournament after tournament, is your goal is long term to be a good chess player. If your goal is to short term be a chess player, there's almost a guaranteed way to lose rating, to have a tough time, to be frustrated. If you want to be good now, frustration will happen. Now, sometimes you want to be good long term, and you want to be good short term. But it's because the mentality guides you to make the right decisions that I think this happens, at least in my experience. So I lose to an 1800, I bounce back, play absolute terrible game, and win against another 1800, which was frustrating, but at least I won. And then I ended up playing an Indian International Master and played a beautiful game. Absolute beautiful game. I would say I had a dream position out of the opening, and then I lost my way. It got crazy, but I stuck with it. I stayed in the pocket. I found some good ideas, and I ended up winning this game. So okay, I'm back. I lost to an 1800. I won the rest of the games. I think I'm 4 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 6. Like every tournament in Europe, I started well. Out of 7 games, I was always 4+, 4.5+, which in America is, I would say, pretty rare. Like, it's not that easy. But in Europe, I was always, score-wise, doing well. And so I beat this Indian International Master, and I play another Indian International Master with white. And man, I just get the dream position. It's like, it's so good. The position is so good, I couldn't even believe it. And like, if I had been more accurate in the opening, I could have gone from +1 to +2 and killing. But I was just so shocked, because everyone says Indian players are the best. Indian players are amazing. They're better than everyone else. And I'm just like, I mean, how am I just completely winning out of the opening? And this is another thing. This game, I played, I think, the canal attack for the first time ever. So I'm playing an opening for the first time ever. I read a book the night before. I studied. I prepped some games. But I'm playing this opening for the first time ever. And I get the dream position against a Sicilian against an Indian player. I'm just destroying him. And at some point, I honestly like run out of things to do, and I just like didn't know what to do. And I think this was a big problem. And I had a transition that I had gone to, but I was like, no, his king is weak. I need to do more. Like, I want more. And this is another, like, just like how when you play lower rated players and you're just like, eventually I'm going to win, so I can do anything. At the same time, when you play high rated players, don't search too hard for the perfect punch. Don't try so hard that at some point you end up frustrated. This is what I did against the Indian IM the round before, and this is definitely what I was doing against the Indian IM this round. So unfortunately, after his king goes from one side of the globe to the other, he ends up winning this game. Frustrated, but okay, I was like, alright. Beat IM, had a good position against IM, should have won, and let's keep pressing. So then I draw another 2400 the next round, and then this is the game that really kind of braced me. And this is one of the inspirations for my new YouTube series, Rooks, Pawns, and Heartbreaks. And man, like I studied the Gustafsson file for hours the day before, for hours the day of. I play hella practice games with my friend who I'm traveling with, and get ready for this game. And I get a dream position out of the opening. It's like, I'm black, I'm getting the dream position, this is amazing. And all of a sudden he walks his king from D1 to D2 to E2 to F1 and gets the rook over. and his king is safe, and then I get this end game that is completely drawn, or I'm pressing, and I just do something stupid. Like, I mean, the end games are tough, and I would say another thing that's very tough is switching mentalities from one to the other. So I had to go in this game from a winning mentality to a holding mentality, which seems like okay, whatever. Like this should be fine. You're playing a high rated player, but when you're winning, like you start imagining like, oh, I'm gonna beat this guy. I'm gonna gain all this rating. You start doing the math in your head. You start being like, okay, I beat this guy. Now I'm 6 out of 7 or 6 out of 8, and I'm gonna play the next round. If I win this game, now I get first place. Now everything is great. And this is actually a very, 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 very big problem. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Like, focus on the game, focus on the details. And this is kind of, I think, a problem that I had going into Europe. I really went into Europe like, I'm going to make Grandmaster, like, this is my goal. And when it came down to the details, I would kind of skip over them and be like, okay, this is just part of the adventure, part of the journey to make Grandmaster. Which I think is a very foolish and, unfortunately, non-positive behavior or mentality to have when you're playing people who are very good at chess. These aren't just some bums. These aren't some guys who are just gonna offer draws or resign or just give me material. Like, these guys are all fighting for the same thing, and that's something you have to realize when you go to all these countries, when you go to all these tournaments. Like, everyone's in the same boat. Like, we basically risked it all in chess. This is our goal is to make Grandmaster this summer. So, any weakness, any loss of focus, like, that's gonna be good or beneficial for your opponent. So, I mean, once again, another learning lesson, but I lose this end game against this kid that is completely drawn, and after that, I was like, alright, I'm done with Greece. I actually emailed the organizer, hey, can I not play the last round, and they still paired me, and I was like, look, I'm not gonna go play this game and lose more rating, especially the mindset that I'm in, the heartbreak that I'm in. So I ended up forfeiting that game and going on to the next tournament, which, okay, it's a little bit weird, but I think once again, if you start thinking long term, the decisions you make will be different from decisions you're used to, which I think long term is the right thing to do. So the next stop is Croatia, and something really cool about going from Greece to no, okay, this is actually from Croatia to Italy. Croatia was great. I ended up losing only one game in Croatia, and well, once again, once I get to the tournament formula, you're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about. But Croatia, I thought the people were great. If I talk about the girls are great. Everyone was great. I think Croatia was really nice. We would go to the city center and we would see these huge boats, and that was the first time I was like, yo, boats are pretty cool. Like, one day I want to get rich enough to have a boat. So I thought that was very cool. Beautiful country. The food was great. The people, honestly, like, people are good in every country, but I would say Croatia was where we made the most friends, like me and my friend. Like, we would talk to these guys, talk to those guys, and then even the organizers are cool. We had Blitz tournament, Rapid tournament. I did well in both. I think I got top 10 in Rapid and Blitz. So that was really good. So the way Croatia went was, I started well. I destroyed my first round opponent, destroyed my second round opponent, and then third round I played, I think the guy got third place, but another E4, E5 game, and I mean, honestly, like, he almost refuted the variation that I and my sensei prepared for, which I thought was just very unfortunate. Like, when you go so far and you travel so hard and you do all these things, and you get a position with black where it's just like, what am I supposed to do? And this is another recurring theme that I saw through Europe that I will talk about. So I lost this game, and then I went on to just not lose the rest of the tournament. So I scored 6.5 out of 9, which is good for about 10 to 12 FIDE points, which is not as much as I was hoping for. I ended up winning 150 euros for 10th place, which once again is not as much as I was hoping for. In the last two rounds, I drew a GM and I drew an IM. Both of those, I would say I had some chances to win, but they were tough games. But overall, I would say Croatia, at least score-wise, I got 6.5, which tied my record and I had a chance to break it, but it also broke my record of 5.5 out of 9 for the summer. So that was nice. I would say overall Croatia was a very nice experience. That I might play that one again. Greece, even Greece, I might play again. Maybe all of them I play again. But I thought Croatia was a great experience. I had a lot of fun there. And we actually had a group of 3 in Croatia. And okay, let me say, if you're traveling to other countries or tournaments, groups of 3 or more are the numbers you want. 2 is, I mean, I'm not saying 2 is bad or anything. And especially if you have a good friend, like 2 is still good. But 3 takes some pressure off the friendship. Where it's like, when you have 2 people, you always gotta hang out together. You always gotta do this together. You always gotta do this. When you have 3, you can take some days off, or you can take some time off. And I would say, like, me, as well as I would say most chess players, are inherently a little bit introverted, where we need our time alone, our time to chill, our time to, like, recuperate and figure out what's going on in our heads. And Croatia was nice because we had 3 people, another strong player, Mike Ivanov, and we all did well. 6, 6.5, and 7. Those were the scores. I ended up gaining the most FIDE, but overall, everyone there was happy with their result, and this leads to the last tournament, Italy. Something cool about going from Croatia to Italy was I got to travel by boat, which I thought was super cool. Never traveled. Honestly, I have a huge fear of water. I don't mess with sharks, jellyfish, crocodiles. Honestly, everything in the water. I think whales, orcas. I already said jellyfish, but I'm not a huge fan of the water. But while in Europe, I was with Croatia. I was like, all right, let's get in some water. Not even get in some water, but travel by boat, which is a lot slower than traveling by airplane, but a lot more convenient. Like, if there are babies that are crying on a plane, you're stuck. But boats, there are like 4 floors of where you can chill and do whatever. And not to mention, when you like go outside, when you sit on the pier, or not even the pier, but when you like go to the perimeter of the boat, you can stand there and look at the ocean, look at the waves. I really wanted to see a whale or a shark. I mean, it's nice to face your fears sometimes. I wanted to see like a big silhouette of a huge sea animal. I thought it would be really cool. I didn't, so I ended up just listening to music while watching the ocean. Which, another thing, is super underrated. Like, you can get lost forever just staring at the ocean. Which I think is really cool. I think the ocean there's a lot of merit to it, a lot of cool things to it. I thought a lot of the sailors were cool too. They had hella tattoos. They seemed like cool dudes. And they just, like, everyone in the boat, or I would say anyone near the ocean, has a very chill vibe. Where it's like, alright, we understand that life is like this, and things are like this, and the ocean is like this, So I thought that was really cool. So we get to Italy. So Italy was, I'm going to say, a little bit of a nightmare, at least starting wise. So here's the deal with Italy. Last year I played in Italy, and I thought we had free hotel. And the reason I thought so was we got to the hotel. Me and my friend were there. They gave us the keys, and they said, all right, you can go to your room, go do your thing, enjoy the food, enjoy the place, enjoy everything, right? So I do that. I hand off my keys when I'm leaving, and I'm like, wow, these guys are awesome. They gave us free hotel, free food. We even went out to eat because there was a lot of cool places by the beach. Once again, it's by the beach. It's great. So I get there this time, and they're like, hey, you owe us money for last year and this year. And I'm like, what? Just like shocked. Just like, I came here on the premise that this place is free. And they were like, no, so you actually owe us. And okay, here's another thing. When they include food, this place is not cheap. So it was $500 for about, 500 euros for 6 to 7 days at this place. And you can't split it with your friend. So it's 500 euros for one person. If 2 people share a room, then it is 550 euros for each person. I'm like, wait, it's 2 people to a room, and you're charging us not even just the same, not even less, but more? And they were like, yeah, you're saving like 10 euros per night if you split a room. So that was one thing. The next thing was there was no Wi-Fi whatsoever in the room, or even reliable Wi-Fi outside of the room. So this makes a couple things very hard to do. I won't talk about certain ones, but preparing for your opponent is a lot hard to do on your phone. I'll say that for sure. So pretty much every round, I was not really preparing. I would look at what they play. I couldn't really get an in-depth look at certain things that they play. I could just basically like, okay, against e4 they do this, against d4 they do this. Do they go e4 or they go d4? So all things being considered, I did end up doing decently well in this tournament. I ended up 5 out of 7 with no losses. So I'm riding a 13-game undefeated streak from Croatia and Italy. Which, I mean, if you think about it, is pretty good. 13 games, no losses. So I ended up with 5 out of 7. And I'm playing the last 2 rounds. And my friend had already withdrawn at this point because he had had a rough start. And it was just me. So I'm playing a Grandmaster, the top seed, on round 8, board 3. And he literally just plays perfect. And here's another thing. Like, I'm like, well, okay, if I can win this, like, then I'm first place, then I can walk away with 800 euros, like, I'm good. Like, it was worth it. Even if I don't, at this point, like, since I played down so much, I was like, okay, I'm not going to GM Norm. But if I can win this tournament, if I can walk away with a trophy, that would be great. But I played this GM, this French GM, and, I mean, when I say he played perfect, it's like every prophylactic move he found. Every sacrifice I made, he took with no problem. Like, I'm not, okay, of course I'm not saying he cheated. He's an older guy. I don't think he cheated. He played really well. He was there at the board the whole time. But if you looked at this game and you saw the two sides playing, you'd be like, yo, this guy cheated. Like, he played it perfect. Like, everything you played, everything you did, you read it instantly, well, no problem, and you just didn't stand a chance. And this is the problem, and I'm going to allure to this in the formula real quick, but I ended up losing this game, and once again, I got my heart broken because this was the game. This was the game that I had. Okay, here's another thing. Why does every game that matters that I need really bad, I have to play black? Like, can I get one white game where, okay, worst case I draw? Because, like, the game before this, I played this guy from, like, Saudi Arabia, strong player. I played a beautiful game against the King's Indian. Like, just straight up, like, Kramnik style, perfect, no rush, and then the counterattack was vicious and lethal. And then I have to play this guy, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling so hard. Like, I sack a pawn, he takes it, no problem, he's +4. I sack an exchange, and his king is walking all over the board. I mean, he's just +4, +5, perfect. It's like, I don't even know what to say. It's like, you do everything right, and you're not even close, you know? So then I play this game, I lose to this guy, and then I have to play the last round against him 2200. And, okay, to start things off, like, I'm like, okay, if I win this 6 out of 9, maybe I get some money. Maybe, okay, whatever, life's good. And then I get a very unambitious position out of the opening. And now, fast forward a couple moves later, of course he played it almost perfectly. Like, I have to survive a slightly worse endgame. Basically, he's up a pawn, rook and pawn endgame, but we're both pretty active. And it comes to the point where I have 2 options. I can play for the win, or I can just take the easy draw. And of course, with my hero mindset, my I came to Europe for all this mindset, I go to be a hero, and I end up losing in heartbreaking fashion. So, Italy was very mid, I would say. And honestly, getting back from Italy was, I will say, a miracle. Like, nothing short of a miracle. So, I leave the hotel that I'm... So basically with the hotel, I ended up like 600 euros for this tournament, and they were like, okay, you have to owe us 500 euros for the last tournament, and which is very interesting because I shared it with someone. So do we each owe 500? Are we splitting it 500? I don't know. But basically they were like, well, you're not allowed here ever again. So I'm banned from this tournament. So this is why, like, once I heard this, it was after round 7. Around 5 out of 7, I'm like, okay, well, now I have something to play for. I'm never going to be here again. I'm banned from this place because I'm not paying another 400 euros that I thought was free. And let me try to win this tournament. Like, I'm on board 3, round 8. Like, if I win this, I'm on board 1. I win the tournament. 7 would have won the tournament. So I'm very motivated to win this tournament because this will be the last time I ever play here. And I lose. And I don't lose. I lose twice. I get my heart broken in this end game, and okay, so I leave the tournament, and now I have to take a bus to Venice. I have to take a bus and then a train to Venice, and this is what really freaked me out. So I'm waiting at the bus station. Okay, so here's the worst part. There's two bus stations. There's one on my side of the street, and there's one on the other side of the street. And if I miss this bus, let's say for example, I take the wrong bus. First of all, if I take the wrong bus, where am I going? The places this bus is taking me, none of these people have Wi-Fi. This is in the country. If I don't have Wi-Fi, how am I gonna get to Venice? And like, the stress of, man, this could be it. Like, this is one of those things that cross your mind. Like, if I miss this, if I don't make this plane, like, I mean, this is it. Like, I don't know if I'm stuck in Italy and I have to learn Italian, or I don't even know what happened. Maybe I have to make my way to England, so at least I can get some English, you know? Fortunately, I take the right bus, so I get to Venice, and I'm at the airport. I get to the airport 8 hours early, okay? And this is something that I think is very important to know if you are traveling in Europe. They board their planes very, very fast, as long as they're not a reliable airline. So I booked my flight through Play Airline. Very dubious choice, as most of my... I'm not going to say most, but basically every 9 rounds I make 1 or 2 dubious moves. And I booked through a dubious airline. And, okay, flight's delayed 1 hour, whatever. So I get there, say 45 minutes before the new flight's supposed to take off, and nobody's there. So I start playing Bullet, you know? I start playing some Bullet games. I keep taking a look to the left to see if there's any line. And then with 25 minutes to go, I'm like, okay, I don't see any line, but it's 25 minutes to go, let me get on this plane. And, apparently everyone boarded, right? And this agent, a wonderful lady, is like, "Sir, the doors are closed. Sir, the doors are closed." And that's all she could say. She would have a couple sentences here and there, but then she would say, "Sir, the doors are closed," a million times. And I'm like, look, the rule is 15 minutes before the flight, the doors close. I'm here 25 minutes before the flight. And the worst part is, like, when I go to her, she's on the phone. She's like, "All right, give me a second, I'm on the phone." I'm like, "All right, whatever. Like, we still have time before 15 minutes before the doors close." And then she's like, "Hey," and then she gets off the phone, she's like, "Hey, you can't get on this plane." And then I'm like, I mean, where did the line come from? I didn't see any line. Like, what's going on here? She's like, "Sir, the plane is full. Everyone is on board right now." And as I say that, 2 kids come up and they were like, "Hey, is this the flight to blah blah blah?" Like, we were at the wrong gate because that's what it said, and so we were freaking out because all 3 of us are not making this plane, and the kid is like, "Yo, this kid's a minor. Like, this is the only flight he can get." He literally said something that I thought was so funny. He was like, "Are we just supposed to live here now?" Like, because this is something that's going through my head. I missed this flight. Like, am I just going to live here now? And it's something that the stewardess said that I thought was insane. Was like, I'm not gonna say I'm yelling at her, but I'm very frustrated. I'm like, "Look, it's not 15 minutes. It's not even 15 minutes before we get to the door." And she's like, "Sir, don't start crying." And I thought that was hilarious. Like, I actually burst out laughing. Like, "Sweetheart, I'm going to throw you through the door to open the door before I start crying." And I started laughing a lot. And this is one of those moments where you're just like, wow, I can understand how some people turn into Joker. Like, some days are just like, you're like 1 or half a decision away from becoming Joker, you know? And, okay, so I end up missing this fight thanks to the wonderful woman, almost the only woman, because there were no men working there at Play Airline. Kudos to them. And fortunately, so it's like, what is it? It's 11 p.m. Thursday night in Venice. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? But I end up getting a Delta flight Friday morning that comes to America. And dude, God bless Delta. Like, when I do stand up, I'm going to talk about how much I love Delta. Delta is the best. I love Delta. They got me back here. And this Delta is the reason why I am back in Atlanta right now. Like, all the credit. Like, I mean, they're nice, they're good, they do everything right. Like, maybe you pay a little extra money, but it's worth it with Delta. Anywhere else, like, you're just throwing away money. You're just burning lottery tickets. You're burning your cash. Go to Delta. They will get you there. They'll make sure you get there. So a lot of kudos to Delta. So let me talk about the tournament formula that I pretty much saw through every tournament. I know I wanted a huge tangent there on how I almost didn't get back to America. And this is only like the tip of the iceberg for all the things going on in my head, okay? It's like, man, I'm stuck here. Like, what am I going to do? Like, oh my God, there's this. Like, should I throw this girl through the window? Like, all these things are going through my head. But basically, the tournament formula that happened a lot was I lost early. I played like an old man, and this really hurt. And then I would end up losing an early game. And then I would work my way all the way back. I would play one very crucial game with black. If I didn't lose, I had a good tournament. If I lost, then I can have a good tournament, but only so good because I lost. And then if I lost this game that was very important, always what followed up was heartbreak. There was always some game that broke my heart. I should have drawn, I should have won. I shouldn't have lost by any means. And I found a way. So this is the tournament formula that I am going to spend the next couple weeks, months trying to fix. So one thing I will say is being okay with draws is good, but also I think playing like a man, if you want to beat lower-rated players, okay, one school of thought is just let them beat themselves, but another is you have less experience and less knowledge than me, I'm going to beat you, and we're going to go to war. And I think that is something, at least something I need to do early on in tournaments, very importantly, and to show that progress is being made. Like, I told my teacher, like, hey, I'm taking this week off, but I'm going to come back stronger next week, and we're going to start studying. We're going to start studying, like really how to win. Like, I want to start knocking out my opponents. I'm not doing this again. I'm not grinding another equal position that you guys will see on YouTube again and again. It's time to start really knocking out my opponents. Alright, so I would say that is a pretty good sum overall. In terms of countries, Serbia, top tier. Croatia, a little bit lower. Greece, a little bit lower. And Italy this time, at the bottom. Like I'll say, like, once again, Italy is beautiful. By the water is beautiful. Girls are beautiful. But the experience that I had this time was just abysmal. And I don't know if it's Italy's fault or my fault or probably a little bit both. But that is how I feel about the countries and the chess that I played over the summer. Next, I will get into EAC Fall Championship number 5 and what we're doing for this. Alright, so let me talk about the preparation for EAC Fall Championship 5. I would say preparation has gone pretty well. So we're about a week out for the big tournament, and we have about 44 entries, which is pretty good. We always had the curse of 40, where no matter what we could do, we get stuck at 40. Now, one thing that a friend of mine said that I think is very interesting is low-rated players don't care about the money as much. They just want to play. Whereas high-rated players have been doing this for a long time, so they care about the money more. So I'm thinking that we change entry fees and prizes based off the section. So if you're under 1,400, probably entry fee would be like half of what you're expecting, and the prize fund would also be half. It's all about getting a lot of people together. And when the prize fund or the entry fee is as much as the top section, it almost is a deterrent more than a encourager. Whereas like when you're above 1,800, you're pretty much used to paying $100 for a tournament. And if you have a lot of people that are high rated, then it's totally worth it, because this is your chance to go play. But when you're under, let's say like 1,400 or 1,800, $120 to play is not as much of a motivating factor, unless money is not an issue, which I think is true for a lot of chess players. But on the flip side, it is a hindrance for a lot of parents with multiple kids, where it's like, man, am I gonna pay $300 to get these guys playing when I can just pay $120, $150? I think that's something interesting to think about. That being said, like, we have one of the strongest sections in the state of Georgia ever, and that's not including me playing. We have, I think, 6 players above 2,300, which is phenomenal, and hopefully we can land a GM Zapata or maybe even two GMs. Because I mean, $1,000 first place. I think 60 plus 30 is a money. Um, Time control as well. Whereas the game doesn't drag, and 30-second increment is enough not to flag. So I think it balances very well between the two. And the last thing I have to say about the preparation for EAC Fall Championship 5 is having this during European travels and vacation and quotation marks, like vacation, like I'm playing tournaments, this is really vacation. But to have to do all this while doing this, like I used to think like, I mean, to make a specific example, I'd be like, Dana White is on vacation and we can't hear from him. And it's like, dude, just pick up your phone. Like, how do you not hear from this guy? And to be fair, like, I didn't have Wi-Fi for a lot of this, but I did have Wi-Fi enough times to answer things faster. But when you're on vacation, when your goal is to, after a tournament, is to relax, and you have to go add people to the tournament, make a sponsorship package, whatever, it's a lot harder. And I will say, like, teaching lessons is a lot harder. I would say that's another thing about Italy that was not the most ideal, is the Wi-Fi was so abysmal that I didn't have the opportunity to really use Wi-Fi and teach people. So at the end of Europe, it really became a, let me just survive until I get back, and then we'll figure out what's going on from there. And that has been a big theme of me being back from Europe. We just got to survive and do what we can, because you missed a lot of things. So I would say, like, preparation is good. I would say preparation would always be better if I was not in another country, time zone, and Wi-Fi longer while I was there. But it is what it is. You learn, and I would say the best thing, the biggest thing from this European trip was it was a huge learning experience in very many regards, and something that you're just gonna build on. And sometimes the thing with life is you just don't have a choice. You have to learn. Sometimes with chess, you don't have a choice. You have to learn. Like, that's what they teach you, and that's what you gotta learn. So unfortunately, like, you're gonna take your losses, you're gonna take your disappointments, but you do your best and you learn, and hopefully next time it's not as bad, or not, or even better, it's great. So that is something that I learned from preparing for this tournament, and now I will get into chess training for myself, my students, and life, and the rest should be pretty short. Alright, so chess training for myself. So I get back from my miracle journey back from Italy, and first thing I'm like, alright, no chess for a week. Cannot do chess at all for a week. I'm not studying chess. Now, something that goes along with this in my chess students is I have my spreadsheet, right? Where I track all the training and what you've done this past week. And it looked pretty bad when I didn't fill out a couple boxes. So I have retired this past week from training chess, but I have been playing 3 games of Blitz, 2 puzzle storms or rushes, and 10 puzzles every day, just to stay with it. And it definitely feels like whenever I get back, whenever I start studying, I'm going to be more than ready, because I have been not losing what I have gained over the summer, which I think is also very important. Like, when you play a lot of tournaments, when you're feeling yourself, when you're doing well, you need to stay active. And vice versa, when you are not doing well, when you're stuck, when you don't know what you're doing. I'm not saying you have to stay active through tournaments, but through puzzles and blitz games or games, I think it's very important to stay active, because it's going to take away this ring rust that you're going to have when you come back to playing real tournament chess, which is really what we're all striving for and aiming for, which I think is very important. So I have been grinding the blitz in the games since I've been back. Another thing that I think is very important is, from the trends I've seen, like especially early on, like, you can't play this BS chess, this grandpa chess, especially when you're playing grandpas. Like, when you're playing older chess players who just want to kind of chill and do nothing crazy, like, I can't be playing this d4, c4, like, kind of slow stuff. I need to really be trying to light them up, because that is the path to victory. So that is my goal for, I told my teacher, like, I'm going to take this week off, but next week we're going to get back into it, and we're going to be really grinding. Like we're going to be, I want to learn the crazy. I want to play like a man. Is I would say the best way to say what I'm trying to do. No more of this old mentality unless I'm playing someone who's very aggressive, and that is where I think it's very important to become your opponent's weakness. And if you just one size fits all, like earlier on, I'm gonna play very slow and positional, and then you end up drawing or not winning. You can't be surprised, and that is something I think I learned, and I'm gonna take away. Um, Another improvement for future tournaments is I think just being very focused and not trying to be a hero. Like I would say with Europe, I went very all in. I'm very thankful for all the people who sponsored, but a lot of time during tournaments is spent like, how am I going to get to the next place? How am I going to afford the tickets back to America? Like a lot of my mental, I don't know about stability, but bandwidth was spent like, all right, we got to make sure we can do this, we got to do this, and we have to do this. Where it's very nice to play in peace, just as an artist, you know, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And just relaxed. Like when you breathe, when you play free, I think is the best. My saxophone teacher actually would tell me this back in middle school and high school. Is like, if you want to make good music, you have to play free. If you play with something to prove, you play with some anger. If you play with this is why I'm doing this and I have to do this, it's not the same as playing free. And you can have your goals, you can have your ambitions, but in the moment you play free, and when you practice, you practice with that ambition. And I think that is another thing that I learned between flow state and deliberate practice, which I think is very important. Now, let me talk about my students. Man, these guys were having the summer of their life, especially the last 2-3 weeks when I couldn't teach lessons. Man, these guys have been going off the deep end, you know, diving, swimming, going off water slides, and I had to come back here, and it's been a process, but student by student, I've been like, well, if you don't fill out the spreadsheet, you're getting cut. And I cut a bunch of people before this, and we'll cut more people after this. And had to really get this message across this past week, just so people know, like, okay, this is, okay, vacation's over, it's time to get good at chess. And I think that's very important, like, as a teacher, as a coach, like, my students represent me, and if I'm slacking off and not doing anything, my students are doing the same thing, then we're going to get the same results. And if we're working hard, we're striving hard, we're focused, we're doing what we're supposed to do, then our students are going to do well, which I think makes a lot of sense. So that was the first thing with students. Next thing I think that's very important, the two things are, I need to start doing tests and quizzes. So I need to start making tests, making quizzes for my students to take, just to make sure they know and internalize the knowledge. Because I think there is a lot of like half-hearted, lazy kind of analysis where it's like, all right, we went over this, now I know. But with tests and quizzes, you're going to really know whether you know or not. Now, another thing that I've added to lessons is I've added a lot more discussion. So what I've been doing is I would show my student a position from one of my games or from a famous game, and I would give them 1 minute, just think about the position. No moves. I want you to tell me the ideas, what's going on, what you're trying to do, and then we'll talk about it. And then after this, we discuss the position. I try to help them find the answer. And I just feel like this has been better with connecting my students too. Like something I learned, just me being a kid, like when my dad would teach me, a lot of it was like, I just wanted to know, like talk chess and think about, what am I thinking about? What are they thinking about? Like, let's just talk about it. And that's what I've been doing with these positions. It's just like, okay, let's discuss what's happening. Let's figure out what we're trying to do and get on the same page. And I think that openings, overrated. Puzzles, obviously important, but overrated. It's really like, do you understand chess? Do you understand what's going on right now while you're playing this game or analyzing this game? And if you do, then the moves will make sense. And I think this is going to transition really well to idea-based moves versus just moves. If you want to find the best move, you need to understand what's going on in the position. If you understand what's going on in the position, then it's going to be a lot easier to find the best moves. And this was, I think, really portrayed during my round 7 game in Italy, where I found some very nice moves that were only because I was trying to think about, okay, what would Kramnik do? What would Kramnik think in this position? What would Kramnik try to make sure my opponent couldn't do. And if I did that, I think I had a very good grip on the position, and I think that is very important. Now, the last thing that I'm going to wrap up this podcast with, because I've talked a lot about Europe and everything else and everything that's been going on, is just the acclimation back to America. So, sleeping in is not really a thing anymore, which is great. I've been going to bed early, and I've been waking up early, which has opened a lot of doors to training and martial arts and everything. So I'm back boxing. I'm back cooking. I cooked a bunch of food maybe 3 days ago. Rice, okra, fish, potatoes, and then I've been going back to my sandwich plus soup for lunch. So getting back in shape. I will say one thing, like, I think towards the end of Europe, the last couple days, I wasn't in bad shape because I wasn't eating that much because I was stuck at the airport for like 48 hours. But once I got back, I was eating hella cookout. And this definitely, I'm not going to say I was in good shape once I got back, but the cookout really accentuated the bad shape that I was in, like the circular shape that I was in. So I've been really kind of pressing, making sure to get back in shape, running every day, going back to the gym, which I think is very important for not only just mental fitness, but also physical. I mean, not only just physical fitness, but mental fitness, and just mental, I would say, optimism, which I think is very important. Optimism in chess, in life, and a lot of this stuff stems from working out and being on the move and doing things, and seeing progress. And maybe if you're stuck in one field but you see progress in another, you still get a testosterone boost from seeing progress, which I think is very important. So I haven't exactly filled up the spreadsheet for what I've been doing when I'm back, but I have started. I started reading the Bible again too. I would say it's just good to be back, especially when you weren't sure if you're gonna make it. It is very, very excellent to be back, and just doing the things that you do, training, doing your thing, and I mean, you'll see in a week, 2 weeks, like where this is gonna go. I will say, I'm still a little bit out of shape, not cardio wise, but just body wise. Like, I'm used to working out and being in really good shape, and not right there right now, but definitely seen a lot of progress in the last week. And then just getting back to chess next week and getting back to stand up. I did write a new stand up routine about Delta and how much I love Delta, which I think makes a lot of sense. And I will be performing that next week. I will say I've been easing myself a lot this past week, kind of like almost babying myself. Like, I boxed, but I didn't spar. People were sparring and looking to spar, but I was like, I'm not ready yet. I need to get back in shape. So that's going to be the progress from next week that I'm looking for. Just getting back to sparring. I've been running, but working out my legs, especially squatting, instead of just doing upper body, will be another addition from next week, which is good. I think you should start yourself slow and start building up, and then eventually you get to the level that you are striving for. Okay, so last thing, I want to talk about some songs from Europe. These songs were 100% stuck in my head, stuck in my body the whole time. To start things off, I'm going to talk about after Italy, when I was low-key depressed about my tournaments and the whole summer. I remember I watched Spider-Man 2, the one with Tobey Maguire. Great movie, amazing movie. And what he really talks about in this movie is, like, is it worth it? Like, he ends up quitting being Spider-Man for a couple weeks, whatever. And ironically, like, life is good. He quits being Spider-Man and life is good, and this is what I kind of felt. Like, let me just stop doing chess for a sec and life will be good. Like, I can actually save money, you know? Like, if I didn't go to Europe the last 2 summers, I would probably have a lot more money than I did right now. But the moral of the story is there's a calling that you're for. This is what you're made here for, and you don't, I mean, of course you do it for yourself, but more than that, at some point you've been doing it for so long, you end up doing it for other people. In a sense where it's like you're inspiring other people. I mean, I enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't just do it for other people. I obviously enjoy it a lot. But one thing that's great about the movie is you really see the stress and the wear and tear of this kind of lifestyle. So the songs from those movies that were really good was Vindicated by Dashboard Confessional and Hold On by Jet. Now let me go to other songs that I thought were really great over the summer. Grim by the Blue Stones was amazing. Just one of the best, coolest songs I heard. Take Me Out, Franz Ferdinand, is just super nice song. The change up and flow is great. Short Change Hero is the song that I really consider walking out to if I ever do fight. I think it's a beautiful song and it talks about being a hero and how it's like, what does he say? I know what you're hiding from. I know what you're running from. Something like that, something like that. This ain't no hero. Something, I mean, great song. Blue Stones are great. Don't miss. Life is Beautiful by 30 Seconds to Mars was also another really big one. And then let me go real quick to rap. So rap, Gangsta's Paradise. That was a huge song that I listened to a lot. It was honestly just a real take on, once again, is it worth it or not? Like, you know, like 23, I don't know if I'm going to see 24. Like, this is the life that we live when we do this. And, yeah, I mean, it's good, it's fun, but if you could do it again, I don't know if you do it. And I think this is why, like, a lot of famous boxers and fighters tell us to their kids, like, you're not fighting. Like, nah. Like, you don't know how close I got to losing it all. Like, and this is actually my next tattoo that I'm planning. It's, like, a Joker card. Because, like, there were multiple times throughout this trip where it was like, I don't even know if I can come back from this. Like, I don't know if I can survive this. I don't know if this could be it. Like, what if I'm just stuck in Italy the rest of my life and this is what I do now? So, like, it's a gangster's paradise. Like, and the worst part is, as guys, this is the life we search for. This is the life that we want. We don't want some safe life. I think girls can do this really well or easily, where they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to school and get a master's and get a PhD and follow the rules and, you know, I'll be fine. Like, I'll have a job, I'll find a husband, like, I'll do my thing. But for guys, it's like, bro, I'm not finding a husband. Like, this is my thing. Like, if I'm going to do my thing, I'm doing my thing. And if I make it, I make it. If I don't make it, well, at least I died trying. And that is, I think, something that has resonated through Gangsta's Paradise. And then lastly, a couple songs that I thought were pretty cool that I did listen to a lot. Feeling Good by Michael Bublé. Beautiful song, amazing song, hype song, great walkout song. Then Bad Habit by Steve Lacy. Very underrated song, but very catchy. And All the Things She Said by T.A.T.U. It's a tattoo? I don't know. But thought all these songs are very important for the summer. These are my summer songs that I listen to at least a million times, I would say. And I enjoyed it. Listened to them a million times. So, all things considered, I would say that's a pretty solid recap of Europe, of the highs, the lows, the emotions. I mean, I will have a podcast next week. I will have a lot more YouTube videos under my belt. I'll have sparring under my belt. And hopefully I have some jiu-jitsu under my belt too. So that is all I can say for Master of One, episode 40. Great episode. I think a lot of things that I went through. Hopefully y'all stuck through it to the end. And apart from that, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you guys go to Serbia, Greece, Croatia, Italy, Bulgaria, every country. It's worth it. It's 100% worth it. You will learn something. You'll become a better person. And once again, long term over short term. Short term, this trip was not that great. But long term, I think I really take away a lot of things from this. So hope you guys were entertained, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.